Welcome to the Fpundation podcast. I'm Eric. This is Adam.
Hello, everybody, especially all of our new friends on BlueSky.
Oh,
We have
man,
made
yeah.
so many friends on BlueSky this week. It is incredible. Mass exodus from Twitter, definitely the best move I would recommend to anybody who is, like us, looking to get out of the toxic Twitter space. We went on Twitter because we thought it was kind of what we had to do. Because I mean, it's the biggest brand in social media in terms of this kind of stuff outside of Facebook, probably. But yeah, if you're listening to us and you haven't gone to BlueSky yet, go to BlueSky. Oh my goodness gracious. It's such a better atmosphere. And we cannot wait to integrate all of our new friends from BlueSky that we made over the past, 4 days into the Smark Foundation proper.
Oh, yeah. I cannot wait. I am like, we are a positive space podcast, and I know that there are certain things that we've been kind of down on in the last few episodes, but
I mean, to be fair,
honestly,
I think we try to be positive but also constructive.
right. I believe we try to be constructive.
I don't think we should ignore bad things. I think we should try to help make things better, not just tear down for the sake of it.
Right. But what I've found being on BlueSky is just there's a lot less of a feeling that I need to address things that are disliked, because there's just not, people just aren't focusing on that. And I'm really enjoying that part of it. Like, I'm really enjoying being able to open up a social media network, see things I want to see, that I want to positively react to, and not be drawn into, a negative kind of, back and forth between me and some bad faith actor who's just going to make me say things or draw things out of me that aren't part of who I am. They're just, it's just going to, make me meaner than I should be. And I'm so happy to like be in a place where I open it and I feel like I'm a little bit more, I'm in a place where other people are also wanting to be happy.
It's a safe space. I mean, I know that phrase gets ridiculed by some people, but in this case, it absolutely applies. It is a safe space for people who just want to enjoy the things they want to enjoy. And in this case, that happens to be wrestling.
Yep.
And they have a wrestler emoji, which is
I
great.
love
They
it.
have excellent emojis on this site too. If you're an emoji person, this is definitely your site.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, instead of using a hashtag, you can use particular emojis to catch the eye of people who are interested in the same things that you are. I think that's great. Yeah, and we've been on the site for less than a week, and our official podcast BlueSky account has 126 followers already. You, sir, you have 382 followers.
That is insane to me.
You put the butterfly in social butterfly here, my friend.
Dude, that's so insane to me. I made it onto one of Andy Nemity's lists of people to follow, one of his basic like follow packs. And
That's
it is killing, man. And thank you, Andy and Amy, for first of all helping bring the community together. Thank you for adding me to one of your lists and helping raise our exposure on this platform. I really appreciate it. I appreciate all the work you guys have done. It's this whole thing is crazy. It's like so cool. So it's open source. So as a tech guy, I gotta like just glow on this for a minute.
By all means,
open source. So if you guys look on our official podcast page, there is a post that we have up there from yesterday that shows 4 different wrestling feeds that you can take part in. Just via hashtags. If you hashtag certain things, WWE, AEW, pay-per-view names, TNA, Impact, the TNA wrestling and Impact thing is going to have to change up a little bit because the Impact hashtag is being used by an organization called Impact. Oh. And they're actually a really good, like, veteran-based organization. And so I don't want to nerf their exposure on that thread, but it is interfering a lot with like trying to find TNA and Impact related content. Other than that, though, I have a New Japan one. I don't even watch New Japan, but I totally went through and found all their pay-per-view names and like all their big event names and stuff, and associated tags and emojis and everything like that, and put them all in this thread. So if you post about it, or if you just want to pin some feeds that give you specific companies or just a general pro wrestling feed. I know there are a couple of other general pro wrestling feeds out there. I subscribe to those also. But I took mine, and I know that creating a basic feed kind of limits your feed a little bit. So I used my tech knowledge and I went into the Sky Feed, which is their open source platform where you can code and do all kinds of cool things. You can actually edit the code of the site, um,
Yeah.
and
I have
change
no way
things.
how I
I'm
have
not
no
going to
idea
do
how to
it.
do that, but I think that's awesome that they empower their users to be able to
Mhm.
do that. Like they're crowdsourcing the ways to best serve their communities, and I think that's rad as hell. Like that's amazing. Like it puts the social in social network, and consequently the network in social network. But still,
Right.
like it's I think it's fantastic, and I would encourage everybody, if you're looking for a social media outlet, this is the one. This is the one that's
It
going to
is.
keep you sane. When you block somebody, they stay blocked and they disappear forever.
Ooh, I love that so
They
much.
they just vaporize. That
Um,
you will never see them again. You'll never interact with them again, and it's fantastic. And the community itself, at least, I mean, I assume there's this way with all of Blue Sky,
oh, there are.
But with Wrestle Sky specifically, which is all I've really interacted with, they're very on top of keeping those bad faith actors that we talk about all the time, keep them from infiltrating. They block them into oblivion so they have no presence whatsoever. Because if you block them and they can no longer interact with anybody, they when they're not even being retweeted or reposted, whatever, then they're not getting the engagement that they're looking for. And you can't even, this isn't even a monetized site. So it would be pointless for them to do that anyway. Most of these grifters are on there to farm engagement by stirring up dissension
Hmm.
and getting that engagement via more clicks or views or whatever interactions, that feeds their pockets. And this doesn't give that to them. So they're even less incentivized to come over here unless they're really, really, really adamant about trying to get people's goat. But this community is so on top of
Hmm.
it. They're so on top of protecting each other and their fandoms and not succumbing to the toxicity that often happens with fandoms in general, and especially ones online when you've got, the Wild West out here, like on Twitter. So,
Hmm.
like,
You know,
it's fantastic. I cannot say enough glowing things about it.
I will say this. I did see a post, like on my first day on Blue Sky, where somebody was like, I don't ever want to hear the words IWC or Smark, which that one hit me because that's part of our name.
It's part of our name.
But they were like, I don't want to see IWC or Smark or any any of that stuff anymore. And I was like, no, 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 no. With Blue Sky
We
here,
need
we're
a
taking it
unique.
back. We're taking
Yeah,
it back.
we do
IWC
need an
belongs to us
identity.
again.
We do
Smark
need an
belongs to
identity.
us. Yeah, this is no longer
Yeah,
a thing for the bad faith actors. We're taking this back. It
yeah.
is us. We are
We
going
are
like
reclaiming it.
we are not. We are still going to be known as the IWC to the greater public. To like when people talk about the internet wrestling community, that's what we are.
Yeah,
So if they say it's a toxic place, we're taking it back. We're making it a non-toxic place, and
yeah.
I think, just get on board for that, because I think Blue Sky is going to be a big shift, especially like it's not just us. Um,
No, gosh,
it,
no.
the political left has basically moved to Blue Sky. Swifties have moved to Blue Sky, which is wild. There's so many of them.
Yeah,
The last count I saw was 14 million. It has to have like doubled or tripled in the last couple of days.
yeah. It
Um,
has.
either way, I mean, I know that like I went from having almost no real followers on Twitter. Almost everybody that followed us or our accounts were some kind of weird bot,
Yeah.
to
The
having,
vast majority of my followers on Twitter at that account is a porn bot.
yeah,
Like, it's
that's Twitter
yeah. I
for you.
mean, yeah. You don't follow back. They don't ever post anything. Like, it's a useless interaction. Like,
Hmm.
but
So
anyway, I guess
yeah.
before we go on to the rest of the show, I do want to shout out one person in particular, my friend Jess. We were talking in Discord, and I was lamenting earlier this week about the need for Twitter or whatever. It's like, man, I was lamenting. It's like, ugh, I don't want to stick around this hellscape. And she's, when you're surrounded by, let's face it, uh, fascists on all sides, and Jess just said something very, very simple and but very compelling, and it just connected the wires in my head. And she said, well, I mean, is that really the audience that you're looking for? And I'm like, you know what, no. So screw this, where's everybody going? And that's when my other friend Ian spoke up in the same chat conversation. Like, I think most of the people with our same viewpoint are going to BlueSky. And that's when I went over, and that's when I texted you. So honestly, this this whole situation, this whole completely changing shift that you and I are going through with this podcast as it relates to BlueSky is really down to my friend Jess. So I really want to shout out uh, Jess's name. I won't give a last name in case she wants to, maintain her privacy, but she'll know that we're talking about her. And I just want to say thank you so much, because I have a feeling that this is going to be great for not only our podcast, but our individual lives and our sense of mental peace, and also
Hmm.
the larger wrestling community in general. If
Yeah.
we can convince enough people who are sick of the BS on other social media sites, specifically Twitter, to come over and join us here, I think everybody's going to have a much better time, and you're going to be much happier fans without the people who are actively sowing division for the sake of their pocketbooks, or even just because they want to troll people. Like, what a useless use of your time to just troll people on the regular. Because you prefer one brand over another? Do Pepsi fans troll Coke fans like this? Like, this is dumb. It's so dumb.
I mean, I like Pepsi and my wife likes Coke and she hates Pepsi, so I kind of do, but it's my wife, so it's like my job
No,
to
that's different though.
irritate
You
her a
don't
little.
go you don't go out on public forums and looking for fight to
Yeah.
cause fights over cola.
Like if you drink Coke, you're
Needling
the
your spouse
worst
is one
person.
thing.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
going out in public and making your entire identity, I like this thing, and this other thing that you like, I hate. And so I'm going to be a jerk about it. That serves nobody. It
no.
is completely it's masturbatory. It is completely worthless. That's all
Exactly.
I have to say about that, because
Heck yeah.
this is supposed to be a positive show and a positive experience. And here I am getting heated. So
All
I
right.
apologize.
Well, let's get back to the positives mostly, and
Yeah.
we'll hit the entrances for our lockup. And our lockup this week for Raw from November 4th, 2024. You know what? There's only a couple of things I didn't like about this show. Now I'm going to qualify this because I watched this show twice. The first time I watched it,
Oh,
I either was distracted or something. I really wasn't into it. And the second time I watched it, I found a lot to like about it. So um, the thing I didn't like overarchingly mostly is that it was a Saudi Arabia Raw. I try not to watch the Saudi Arabia shows. I just read the Crown Jewel results, but for Raw, I got to watch it, man. So I
yeah.
did watch this Saudi Arabia show. So I didn't like that, but let's get on to stuff I did like. First things first, they brought Liv Morgan out like right off the hop, and she's not wearing that ugly Crown Jewel belt. And they didn't inform us that the crown jewel belts are locked away in a vault at the WWE experience in Riyadh, where they shall remain. Thank you, WWE, for letting Saudi Arabia just keep their ugly freaking belt.
Yeah, yeah,
Like I'm cool with it. They didn't have it. This is one of the only times you're ever going to see me be like, this person has this title and they're not wearing it. I'm okay
yeah.
with this one.
It's
Let's not be
ceremonial
reminded of
anyway.
it all the time. Yeah, it's ceremonial anyway.
It's not going to be
Um,
defended.
Next thing I like that Dom has nuclear heat even in Saudi Arabia. Like he tried to talk and just got booed out of the freaking building and a sold out same exact stadium where they did Crown Jewel. It's a lot of people. This was probably one of the biggest Raws with the most like into it crowd. Like Saudi Arabia, like I don't agree with your government, but you people out there love your wrestling and it's really cool.
I
Like,
mean, international crowds in general tend to get really into it because they don't get it that often. Like Saudi
yeah,
Arabia gets it more often than, say, I don't know, Mexico, even. Like
yeah,
WWE doesn't even do Raws from Mexico. They'll do like a one tour with like
yeah,
two house shows, and that's it. But they don't get big shows, and
yeah.
no, they no longer get the big show because he's in AEW. But no, I mean seriously though, those international crowds. I mean, uh, as somebody who won a Slammy from the most influential international crowd in history, from the Raw after WrestleMania 29, um, where the night after WrestleMania became a big deal. Yeah, especially those Europeans. Yeah, they make their own fun. If they're not
yeah,
having fun, they make their own fun. They are there to have fun, but you know they're
they're
going to have
gonna,
fun hell or high water, whether it's
yeah.
because of what you're providing them or not. And when you go on their turf, I mean, you saw the way Puerto Rico reacted. You saw the way
Mm-hmm.
uh, uh, I can't remember which city in France it was, but when they went to France and
Yeah.
Bash in Berlin, I heard similar things, right?
Oh, dude, that
So
crowd was soccer
yeah.
chanting the whole time. My wife was getting annoyed by it, to be perfectly
Well, I
honest
mean,
with you, because
honestly,
they
that
were
doesn't
freaking going,
Germany
man.
wrestling is huge in Germany and has been for decades.
Yeah, definitely an underserved market.
For sure.
Uh,
WXW is still strong there. God love
yeah.
them.
So Dom has his nuclear heat with this loud, loud crowd. And then Liv's talking her smack and all that, and then Jade and Bianca show up. Cool. Liv's talking shit about him, like who's gonna turn on who and all this, and doing her thing. And Bianca's just smiling in her face like a psychopath before doing the double take turnaround and smacking the taste out of her mouth. Like, holy crap! It was a whole hand pimp slap. She straight up, I think, legitimately put Liv Morgan on her butt. And like she was selling the face throughout the entire following match, which was a women's battle royal to determine the number one contender to her title, which turned out to be Io Sky. But it's because of interference. Like the tag team champions were going to be the last two in there. They were going to face off against each other. They were smiling about it. They were ready to get down and have a match, and it looked cool.
I mean, it's
Um,
pretty clear that they're building towards that for WrestleMania.
yeah.
It has been
Um,
since last WrestleMania.
But since I'm moving forward, let's move into that women's battle royal for the tag title. So I mean, Liv interfered, and the Bianca and Jade got pulled out of the match, so they're out. Um, but before they go
Bianca
out,
got pulled by her hair, didn't she?
yeah, she got pulled by her hair, dude.
I
Like,
saw that clip.
oh god, Raquel had her hair and was like standing like 8 feet away from the ring, just yanking. Man, I can't imagine. Like, I'm sure that she's used to it because she uses it as part of her gimmick. But I just, I hate having my hair pulled, so I can only imagine. Um, one thing about the that I really liked about it was Maxine Dupree seems to be improving in the ring. Which I mean, that's a far. She's a far cry from getting booed out of the stadium and treated terribly. She did like a reverse worm with an elbow drop at the end. It was super cool. Um, and
Ode to Otis.
Yeah, an ode to Otis, but it was super cool. She looked like she was having some fun out there. So props to Maxine. Katana Chance was our cat skinner. she got thrown out and ended up like walking on her hands from the announce table all the way back to the ring. So totally cool. And then she like
That
hooked her
doesn't
feet on the
surprise me, given her background
yeah.
with the American Ninja Warrior stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, she's going to be the Kofi Kingston for a lot of these battle royals for
Right.
years to come, I think.
Towards the end of the match, before Jade and Bianca got eliminated, they did a tandem KOD and Jaded together. And I don't know if they did a camera bounce on it or if it just really bounced everything like that, but it looked super cool. I don't know if they did a camera trick or that, but it like literally the whole thing, just like my whole screen just kind of did this bounce when they hit, and it was really cool.
Oh no,
Um,
Kevin Dunn is back. Ah!
yeah. Um, After they got eliminated, they're outside and they're, Raquel and Liv are confronted by Jade and Bianca for interfering in the match. And I don't know what Arabic is for "you fucked up," but I'm pretty sure that's what the crowd was chanting at them. So, I mean, it even had the same cadence and everything. It almost sounded like "you fucked up." That might actually be what they were chanting, but I don't know if that's exactly what they were. But it sounded like "you fucked up." Um, then Io Sky won that match with a nasty German suplex on the apron. It was gnarly, but it was cool, man. Like but it was nasty. It was a nasty suplex, and it kind of landed on her head. But if she's fine, it looked fantastic. Then we had the next thing I really liked. White Six had a video. They have Miz capped. So yeah, they've got Miz captive. He's tied up in this black room with tape over his mouth. But right at the beginning of the video, they flash this like 2 second, like blink and you miss it 2 second clip of the Miz with, I think, Kurt Hawkins and Bo Dallas.
Curtis
Te-
Axel, probably. The
yeah,
Miztourage, yeah.
yeah. But he's
Yeah.
telling them, "I'm gonna make you stars that your families can be proud of."
Yeah, that was Curtis Axel, yeah.
And so
Because he had
now,
those two guys as his little running buddies, his minions for a while.
yeah, Axel. So yeah, but he tells them, like he tells them he's gonna make them stars or whatever, and that's like the first clip of this, fuzzy video, and then it goes into Miz being in captivity, and he's like, "You don't want me, you want Final Testament," and Uncle Howdy Bo Dallas is like, "No, I want you, and you're
Yeah.
gonna suffer." And that's pretty much the long and short of it. But it was cool the way they slide in that little 2 second clip just to kind of inform you, but blinking you would have missed it. So I'm sure there's some people out there who are like, "What's going on?" But they're telling us loud and
Yeah.
clear what's happening here. After that, we had War Raiders and New Day. Super great match. Here's where I'm going to talk about a little bit about the other thing that I didn't like. The only other thing I didn't like about this, they're really slow playing the New Day turn thing. Like him and Xavier and Kofi are not getting along in matches now. They're yelling at each other on promos. Like, okay, guys, like how much further do we go before, like, you're telegraphing it to us? What's the play here? I just wish they would kind of get to it. But the War Raiders in their match was really good. The War Raiders picked up the win with this, even another finisher called the War Machine, which is like the waist lift up German over, but
Yeah.
the clothesline from Ivar off the second rope
Okay. I
into
think
that.
wasn't War Machine their name on the Indies too?
I think it might have been.
I'm pretty sure it
So
was.
so they I guess they named their finisher after themselves. But yeah, I mean it's pretty gnarly. I mean he jumps off the second rope, clotheslines the dude, but Rose got him in the waist
In the
lock and
waist
he
lock.
just takes him over with it. So it looks gnarly.
I
Um,
mean, everything they do looks great. They are
yeah.
well oiled.
The last thing I want to harp on is Sammy got to come on. I guess he's made peace with doing these shows. I don't know what was exactly happening with him not doing them before, besides the Syrian thing, because he's Syrian.
Yeah, it was never about him. It was about the Saudi government
Yeah.
because he's very pro Syria. But
Yeah.
those alliances and they shift all the time over there.
Yeah.
I don't think. I think Saudi Arabia probably has other concerns on their mind at the
Hmm.
moment than
But
somebody who's a Canadian Syrian.
he came out wearing the keffiyeh and he spoke Arabic to the audience for a while, and then was mentioning how important it was that he was on national television in the United States speaking Arabic, on WWE Raw. He's like speaking my language and all this. You could tell it was very important, very emotional thing. It's kind of what started his promo before he went into his bloodline stuff. But the part I really enjoyed and the part that I think was worth mentioning is that he was on the show. He spoke Arabic on the show, and you could tell emotionally that was like a high point for him.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed that. So yeah, Raw. Overall, after a second watch, there was a lot to like here. I mean, there was a lot of good stuff in the matches. I really enjoyed it. So, I mean, I'm giving a big ol' up to Raw this week as usual. More to enjoy than not to enjoy, and the stuff that I didn't enjoy was just really. I mean, like one of them could just be long-term storytelling where I'm going to get a twist that I didn't expect. I'm going to end up
I
loving it.
I still think that they're probably just trying to draw it out until aren't they doing like a special show for the 10th anniversary of the New Day or something like that?
Yeah, they were
I
talking
think
about doing a 10th anniversary
I think
celebration for them.
I think
So
they're whatever it is, whether it's Xavier turning his finally turning his back or and completing his heel turn or going the other way and reconnecting. I think that they're waiting for that moment and having Big E come in and at the very least try to reconcile between the two. Whether it takes or not is dependent on where they want the story to go. But I think that's where it's leading because that's the only reason I can think of that they would hold out this long when we know that this is coming.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, man. I mean, I think Raw was pretty good this week. But that leads us into our shine.
Yeah, let's go to the shine, baby. All right, time for the shine, which this week is Dynamite, as usual. Lots of good this week. Claudio and Castagnoli and Pac bet Darby Allin and Orange Cassidy in the opener. Start hot. Good old fashioned chaos. The Death Riders, which is their name now, they finally settled on the Death Riders. They're not the BCC anymore. They're not
Yep.
this nebulous, what are we think? They are the Death Riders. They come out first through the crowd as usual, and they're standing in the ring. And then Orange Cassidy comes out, and he just kind of taunts them from the set. And so Pac and Claudio look at each other, and they're like, "Well, he's alone. Let's go kick the crap out of him." But before they can do that, Darby Allin, who had been hiding on top of the tunnel, comes out and just throws his body at them, like Darby
Like he
Allin is
does.
wont to do. Um, yeah, so it just started with this wild brawl that lasted for a few minutes before it spilled back into the ring. Both of them, both Orange Cassidy and Darby Allin, take turns both playing playing the babyface in peril, and the one to get a hot tag. So it protects both of them, which is always good because they're going to need Darby down the line. Um, but eventually, Cassidy hits orange punches all around, prompting ineffective interference from Wheeler Yuta, but effective interference from Marina Shafir and John Moxley. And the ref just throws the whole thing out. It's an implied disqualification win for Cassidy and Allen. They like to do these schmaz things where, they throw it up, but it's like, come on. There was only one person who drew, one team that drew a disqualification, and it sure as heck wasn't Orange Cassidy and Darby Allen. So as far as
Right.
I'm concerned, whether it's official or not, the baby faces won this by DQ.
Okay.
I actually like the DQ here. They don't usually use a DQ except for specific purposes in AEW. It lends more of a chaotic feel to the Death Riders. You never really know when they're going to interfere and when they're not. And since they don't use it often, it can kind of be their thing. Like, this is the only group where you're going to have DQ finishes from all the interference, and it's going to cause chaos. Like, the DQ finish can almost be a kind of gimmick for the Death Riders in a certain extent, because unlike Raw from 2019, not every finish is a freaking DQ or count out or whatever where you expect it. It's unexpected enough in AEW as a rule that you can get away with something like that here. The beatdown continues until the rest of the conglomeration shows up, chases everybody out, but not before Claudio he press slams Darby Allin into the ring post. He
Ooh.
running starts. He runs halfway down the length of the ring and then just chucks poor Darby right into the ring post, completely unprotected. His ribs must be killing him right now. I'm wondering if maybe like they're doing this to Darby on purpose. Like they know they want to save him as the eventual guy to beat Moxley, but they can't have him be so involved in it early on because then you're asking why isn't he the one doing it now?
Mm-hmm.
So he'll show up when he's healthy and then just continue to get like thrown into things that injure him, for weeks at a time to kind of
Mm-hmm.
delay the inevitable. And in the meantime, other challengers can kind of slot into that, thereby delaying Darby and writing him out of that prime spot for the moment.
Mm-hmm.
If that's the case, I mean, it's my personal opinion that Darby Allin must be thinking of different ways every single time he enters a ring to creatively get destroyed. So it definitely serves to accentuate his positives.
Yeah.
Uh, I worry about the dude's long term health. I didn't want him going up to Everest, so I want him to be around to actually beat Moxley. So let's just hope he doesn't get beat up too much. Uh, Directly after this was the Learning Tree versus the Conglomeration, and you know, I know I've been down on Jericho for the TV time that he takes up and stuff like that, his positioning, but I have to say, honestly, once you put him in the ring in these no DQ situations where multi-man situations where his age isn't so readily apparent and he can kind of rely on some of the gimmicky stuff around and the other people around him to
Mm-hmm.
do some smoke and mirrors stuff to kind of hide his age.
Yeah.
He's actually really good in the role. Like he is like in those little spots, you know, this was a crazy fight without honor, and I gotta say, this gets a thumbs up from me too. Like it was, they protected Bill here really really well. They continued to protect Big Bill. I think down the line, they probably are thinking of strapping him up at some point with like the TNT title or the international title or something like that because they are protecting him so hard. Like he's being protected like a big man of his size should. To the point where the only way that they actually he cleared the ring of the baby faces a couple of times, but he was only taken out when he was fighting with Kyle O'Reilly out towards the fans and in one of those little where the stairs are and there's the little overhang where
Yeah.
there were some tables set up and one of those big travel crates there. He got up on the travel crate with him and he was attempting to choke slam Kyle O'Reilly through that, but Kyle countered with a guillotine choke and they both went through. So they were
Yeah.
both eliminated, but what that really meant is that Big Bill was finally eliminated from the equation.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and from there, it was, I wouldn't say it was academic, but it was far more of a babyface controlled thing.
Mm-hmm.
They teased the finish with Briscoe hitting a froggy bow on Jericho from the top of a ladder inside the ring, which looked insane. I mean, I bid on it. I totally thought that was going to be the finish, but Brian Keith comes in, I think, with a kendo stick and beats the crap out of him. But it wasn't long before Ishii uh, got rid of him too, and Ishii is the one who picks up the pinfall victory on Chris Jericho with a sliding lariat and a brainbuster. I'm a huge fan of Tomohiro Ishii. Have him be the next challenger for the Ring of Honor world title so that Jericho isn't just like one of those guys who wins it and then loses it in his first defense. I hate that. Even with
Mm-hmm.
champions I don't particularly care for, it's like if you're going to give him the belt, at least let him defend it successfully once, just so to make him look more credible. And beating Tomohiro Ishii, the way he's been booked by Tony Khan, who clearly adores the guy and his work, that will mean something to this audience.
Mm-hmm.
So that gets a thumbs up for me too. Uh, the development on the Adam Cole, Roderick Strong, MJF storyline. The match with Cole and Black was okay. Honestly, it wasn't as good as I thought it was going to be or hoping it was be, but the angle afterward more than made up for it because not
Hmm.
only did it clarify, uh, I think what was probably uh, uh, a misexplanation of it from the beginning. What it was described as at the beginning of the storyline was the first one of Adam Cole and Roderick Strong to get 3 wins,
Hmm.
3 consecutive wins would face MJF. When it's just if either one of them gets 3 wins, it doesn't have to be the first one to do it. It's not a race to three. It's just if they can get 3 consecutive wins, either one of them they'll get there.
So it's
Which
going to be
makes
both
more
of them.
sense. Which makes more sense because
Hmm.
like what? Were you gonna have Adam Cole and Roderick Strong have 2 matches at the same time? Like
Yeah.
I mean, whoever was booked to go last was
Yeah.
automatically it didn't make sense. So they clarified this. It was just the first one of those guys to get three or uh, uh, whichever one of those guys rather was getting 3 wins would face MJF. And they further clarified that Roderick Strong had talked to Tony Khan about if they both got 3 wins, then they would make that a three-way match. Don't know why he started with three-way instead of being talked into a three-way down from a handicap match. That would have made, I think, a little more sense. But I think maybe that's just broadcasting the turn. I mean,
Hmm.
that probably. I mean, I kind of don't want that because honestly, I'm kind of digging babyface Roddy. His work as a babyface in this run, 2 matches in, has been stellar. Really, honestly, like his matches, and we'll get to his second match
Oh yeah.
later.
Yeah.
But like his matches have been fantastic. The one with Shane Taylor, the one with Mortos on Collision this week. I mean, as a babyface, he's worked so well, just as effectively as he has been a heel this almost his entire AEW run. So I
Mhm.
think he's one of those Swiss Army knife players. You can pretty much plug him in to whatever you need from him. He's got the tools.
Yeah. Yeah.
So MJF at this news was cinematically. I assume that they planned this thing out and filmed all of his little cinematic things where he's alone in his house watching wrestling, drinking wine or whatever. I assume that they did this all in one shot because I think he's wearing the same thing every time, and it doesn't really make sense that they would shoot this over multiple days if
Yeah.
they already knew the story beats that were going in.
Hmm.
But he makes a phone call after after finding out this news and starting to seethe. That would pay off later. It turns out that he has a big dude in a suit at his beck and call, nameless dude in a suit. I don't. He must have been somewhere nearby because he was able to get the Dynamite Diamond ring from MJF
Hmm.
in the span of like a half an hour. So he must have been near Connecticut somewhere. But but he
Stanford.
basically bribes Don Callis for the third guys that Roddy and Cole face to be members of the Don Callis family. So that set up Adam Cole versus Konosuke Takeshita next
Hmm.
week, which I am super excited about. Although I don't know what they're going to do because it's a non-title match and both of those guys need to win. The unpredictability makes it good. I mean, for all I know, they could go with Roddy here and
They
then just
could.
draw it out. They could do that. Just have it be Roddy and have MJF get the win over Roddy, and then Cole later down the line get a match so as to draw the story out. I don't know. I like that I don't know. I like it. I like the story they're telling. So yeah, I'm all for that. On the flip side of things, Penelope Ford versus Jamie Hayter was good, but like it's the first time in AEW in a long time in AEW that I can think of that a match that wasn't specifically a squash match didn't get interrupted by a commercial break, which means that it was too short. Like these girls, they put on a good match for what it was, but it was way too short.
Hmm.
Like I wanted more from Jamie, I wanted more from Penelope. I I like both these ladies, and I think it's just especially egregious when it involves the women's division to not have the match of that length. Like if you do it for one of the men's matches, okay. I mean, you don't do it that often, it's fine. But when you're only going to have one match featuring the women on the card, and that's the one that
Mm-hmm.
gets truncated. I think that's a bad look. Like, there's been a lot of work that's gone into rebuilding the women's division up to a level closer to where it should be over this year for AEW, and I do feel that they should continue to be commended for that. I feel like this was just a bit of a step back
Mm-hmm.
because as good as the match was for what it was, it could have been better if it had given more time. So
Yeah.
I really want to hope. I want to hope that it was just time constraints or whatever, and that somebody's segment went long or something like that. Like, I mean, that's still not great, but I want to hope that the original plan was to give it more time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'm going to hold on to. Positive thoughts. And then Matt, the show ended with Kyle Fletcher and Konosuke Takeshita versus Ricochet and a mystery partner. And we talked about this last week. I thought the layup choice would be either Mark Davis or Will Ospreay, and they totally didn't do that. They brought back Powerhouse
Powerhouse
Hobbs.
Hobbs. Dude, when he
I
said
was,
he's a little bit miffed, I looked at my wife and I go, it's Powerhouse Hobbs. Holy
yeah.
shit. And the thing went pow. I was like, vindication.
And the crowd popped huge for it
Oh,
too.
God, it
They
was so
absolutely
awesome.
loved it. It injected a lot of intensity to this match that it really, really helped.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, we've seen some people come back from injury and kind of, have to get over their ring rust. Powerhouse didn't look like he lost a step.
Mm-mm.
He was in there. It was as if he came back 3 months ago and had been wrestling
Killed
this
it.
whole time. He looked insanely, just on point. Now all we need to do is get that Meat Madness match finally made, Tony. I want it.
Mm-hmm.
They were
Yep, it's
chanting
time
meat
for
for
me,
him and
man.
Takeshita. I want it. Give me what I want. Give me
Yeah.
what I want.
Give me what I want. Oh,
The
God.
win eventually comes when Ricochet hits that new, like, half hidden blade thing that he hits with
Yeah.
the elbow
The
instead of
forward
the
hidden blade.
swiping. He's calling that the spirit gun.
Yeah.
And he hits Takeshita with that and pins the international champion clean. Not a huge finish of that, but I mean, somebody has to take the pin.
Yeah.
I mean, that's almost a given that Ricochet's not winning the belt, which is
Yeah.
fine because Takeshita should have a long reign. They've built him up so much that, good Lord, give the
Yeah.
man his flowers. So I mean, that the match itself that they're building to will be insane, and I'm really looking forward to it. Um, After the match, Davis does make an appearance to try and make the save when Fletcher tries to take everybody out with the chair. Adam Cole comes out to lead Takeshita away, to build for their match next week. But the rest of the family comes out, and as soon as Fletcher is about to hit, I believe it was Davis with the screwdriver. That's pretty much point of no return there. Ospreay does come out. Didn't expect him. Once they brought Powerhouse Hobbs, I'm like, okay, well, they're still selling it. Nope. Will Ospreay's still here. Uh, and the baby faces clean house, and all in all, just great stuff. It pulled a lot of threads together into one
Mm-hmm.
big yarn ball of great wrestling. And I can't really ask for more than that. I thought it was a great show, with the exception of just, like, do better for your women. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the general consensus I've been seeing even online is like they just need more time. And like I know there was a guy earlier, he posted like a I don't know if people are gonna ostracize this guy or not, and I hope not. And I can't remember what the name of the account is. And I'm not gonna contribute to his ostracization because I thought it was a good point he made. He just posted the timing of the three companies of the time that they gave women across all of their programming for the week. And despite the seemingly deeper wrestling fandom having a bit of a adverse relationship with WWE, they are far and away giving their women the most time
Even
on
more than
programming.
TNA, really?
Yeah, like
TNA
something
is
something to the order
TNA's
of
traditionally been very, very invested in its knockouts division.
TNA is giving more time than than AEW is, but WWE is giving more time than TNA by at least a half an hour across the program.
TNA also only has one show.
That's true. That's true.
So
But they have
yeah,
one show and they're giving more time to their women than AEW is.
yeah.
And AEW
I
has
mean,
3 shows. And
yeah,
now I'm not like I said, we don't complain without offering some construction on this.
yeah.
Just give the women more time. I think that's a very simple answer. Like,
Somebody else. I mean, it's kind of a pointless thing to bring up because it's pretty obvious that Rampage is getting canceled. But somebody
yeah,
on my, it wasn't Blue Sky yet. It was somebody on my Twitter feed proposed just making Rampage a women centric show, and
I'm not opposed.
I
I'd watch it.
it's a question of what is more important, the time given to women in general, and this would be helping them with that, or if you just throw them on their own show, does that make them lesser than the men's action? I think the only way that you really do it is to make that a women's centric show, or even do the reverse, have like only one men's match on that show, and then like one women's match on the main shows, and then the rest of Rampage be like women's centric, like three
It- I
three women's matches and one on men's on Rampage, and then the inverse on the other shows.
yeah. I mean, I think maybe just. I mean, even I would go so far as to say even keep the status quo on Dynamite and Collision, and then just give them the third show. There
Yeah,
are so many like they're telling a lot more stories in the women's division than they're telling in the undercard of AEW. Like
yeah,
they're telling a lot more cohesive stories. People like Deanna and Taya need a place to
yeah,
flourish with their little mafia thing. Maybe add a couple ladies to it.
yeah.
But they
I
they
think they
need
should.
that,
It
But
can't just
they
be the two of them.
no, it's not a
No,
mafia.
the
It's just two
vendetta should
guys.
be bigger.
Yeah, but so it like I would go so far as to even just give them the whole show. But and here's maybe the kicker to that is that I don't always watch Rampage.
Yeah.
But if you told me there's about a 75% chance I'm going to see Willow Nightingale on Rampage,
Mm.
I might go ahead and just watch Rampage.
I
You
think
know,
too that it would force them, because I mean, right now there are stories up and down, that don't necessarily involve titles, but that's not always the case. If
no,
you put them on a show where it's at least mostly, if not entirely, women centric, then that forces them to come up with stories that don't revolve around the belts
yeah.
for the women. And I think that in and of itself is reason enough. I mean, you've got this entire roster of women, and like, whoever's in the world title picture and the TBS title picture gets stories, and then usually there's one, maybe two other stories going on, and then a whole bunch of mid to lower card women who don't have anything to do but put each other over
Mm-hmm.
endlessly. So it would, if they had that time, it would force them to craft something for them. Even if they're bad stories is better than languishing in catering.
I
So
still go see my local indie, and they got terrible stories. So I
yeah,
mean, I'm not going to name
yeah,
which one. There's like 7 here, so I'm clear. I don't have to like
yeah,
pinpoint which one, but there, I still go. I still pay the ticket, but the stories
yeah.
aren't there. But the
Although to
women
be
just need
fair,
more time.
on the indies, stories are less important
Mm.
because they don't have serial, episodic TV. It's like
Yeah, that's true.
I have a show once a month. Okay, the story is, okay, you won a match to be crowned number one contender to this title.
Next
That's
month we're gonna have the
basically the
match.
story. Yep, next time we're gonna have a
Yeah,
match.
yeah. That's pretty. I
You
mean, that is the
you're
limitation of the
you're
indie.
gonna do your own promos on your own time. We're not gonna pay you for it.
Yeah, and then half
You
the time
know,
they're not going to do them. Uh, I will tell you, man. Whew, getting up.
stories are much less important on the indies than they are when you have TV. TV is necessary.
Yes, but yeah, I mean, I think the solution is just give the women more time, and I think they should get more time. This isn't a like the division is bad because you don't give them
No,
time. No, it's fantastic. Please give them
no.
more time. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. You've got so much talent there. You've got a
yeah,
really kind of, I think the roster is deceptively deep, and it's deceptively to the outside eye that's not familiar with AEW because they don't get the time to show how deep their division is.
nah, they don't. They don't. There's
And that's
plenty
all
of
there is
ladies
to it.
sitting on the bench week to week that
Now, like I
can
said, the
definitely,
good thing is
yeah.
that up until this week, they've been better. They've not been peak. They haven't been great
Mm-hmm.
with time, but they've been better. This week was rough on time for the ladies. My heart goes out to them because all they want to do is go out and live their dreams, and they'll be like, "Huh." You'll see. I mean, I'll talk about it in a few minutes with Collision too. So,
Mm-hmm.
but on that note, maybe we should get to the Morton, huh?
Yeah, maybe. All right. So with our Morton this week, it's kind of a short one. There wasn't a whole lot to SmackDown this week, but there was some good and some bad. Started with some good. Sammy had they had a little bloodline get together in the ring, and Sammy had a really powerful promo about how I know you want this. I know we all felt something when we were together in the ring last week, and I know you feel something. But Roman's response to it was kind of to shut it down. And that's something I don't like about what happened on SmackDown this week. Is like Roman's whole attitude was kind of back to tribal chief attitude. And he was like, "Why are you questioning me? And why are we wasting our time with Sami Zayn?" And just not what we're looking for in a face. Like something, we
Well,
gotta.
I mean, it still makes sense with his character because Sami Zayn did turn on him. Like
Hmm,
he did. He turned face, but like he did hit Roman with the chair in that traumatic way that was very reminiscent of how Rollins hit him in the back
hmm,
with the chair, and that was very deliberate storytelling from WWE. I
hmm.
mean, let's not pretend that it was an accident or
No,
coincidental. No, it was trying to recreate that moment to get that trauma out from the Roman Reigns character.
hmm,
Like that one incident is what drives the entire Roman Reigns character from that point on. Everything that he does goes back to feeling paranoid that his friends are going to stab him in the back like Rollins did.
yeah,
So I
um,
mean, it makes sense. I think that he would be
yeah.
hesitant.
I makes sense that he's hesitant, just the dismissive. I don't know. I don't know. I thought we were past this already. Um, that's here's
Oh,
my
he's just hiding his insecurities.
here's
He
my
just needs to
thing.
grow
That
up.
stuff with the bloodline that I'm always like, man, will you please stop it? Like this is some of that stop it stuff. But other than that, like Sammy had a really good promo during all that. So you know,
Big
up for
surprise.
that. It was good. Um, we had a match with Candice LeRae and Bailey, which was really good, but it didn't have enough time. It just kind of like Hater and Penelope, like they just. So I feel like they're giving the women a lot of time on their programming, but some of the matches that they're giving them are just not enough. Like they give it time to cook a little bit. Like they were having a great match, and
is
then it just kind of
is
ended.
Candace still speed champ?
Yeah, and that's we'll get to that in a sec. So the match was good. It was just too quick, but it was really
Hmm.
good. It didn't come to an abrupt end or anything. There was a proper finish and all that, but it was just quick. Now Candice is still the speed champ, and once again, we're back to our old school point of why are they called? They're talking about how she's the speed champ, and she's not wearing that title, man. She's not. She's not doing it. I don't know if she's
Did
the
Bailey beat
champion.
her in less than 3 minutes?
Bailey did beat her this time, but she beat Bailey last time in their last one on one. So it wasn't
But I
like
mean, the timing there was it the 3 minutes? Were they setting up
uh
for a speed title match? Do you think?
I think it might have been a little bit longer than 3 minutes, but it was
Okay,
pretty quick. So it might have been. I mean, I don't
because
know.
I could see that happen and be like, it was non-title match because it's not on speed. But if Bailey puts her away in the
Mm,
within the 3 minutes that normally a speed match would take place in, you could justify her getting the next shot instead of doing
yeah.
these little mini tournaments they like to do.
Then Orton came out. He had he wanted to talk to Kevin Owens. He called him out. Kevin Owens came out. They got into a brawl, and Kevin Owens pile driving. And so they've outlawed that move in WWE for the last like 6 years or some shit.
Oh, it's longer than that.
Um,
Although they
so
won't, although they let everybody hit each other with Canadian destroyers. Riddle me that.
fair, fair, but he hit him with a pile driver. They really sold the the angle of it being an outlawed move, and they had to stretch her out Orton. They had the neck brace. They sold it really well. Michael Cole's commentary really did a good job of putting this over. I thought it was really great, man. It was gnarly in the best way, and Orton sold it like he was dying, like he was making little noises and shit. Like Orton, to his credit, sold it like he was gonna die. It was great. Now they came back from commercial after that, and they were talking in like this serious tone about Randy Orton being hurt and all this. And then they like really abruptly went to like the Pretty Deadly music started playing, and they were suddenly in the ring, and DIY was in the other side of the ring. So they like completely skipped all their entrances. I
Real
guess
mood whiplash, huh?
while they're talking about Orton, and then they just like immediately, like the Pretty Daily music just starts playing, and Michael Cole just cuts off talking about it and starts talking about the match that's coming. And DIY is already doing. I don't like the DIY didn't get an entrance. I don't like how they abruptly cut it off. Paradigm shifted without a clutch on this, like, and I didn't like it at all. Like it ground the gears. But the match, Pretty Deadly, always super entertaining. But they were here to get squashed, and get squashed they did because Ciampa beat them in like less than 3 minutes without even tagging in Gargano. And it
Ooh.
was brutal in the best way. It was
Yeah,
brutal in
Champa
the
can really
best
lay it
way.
in when he's
Yeah,
when
he
he's
really
given a
can. And
reason
he's
to.
playing a pissed off character right now because he's
Yeah,
mad that the Motor City Machine Guns came in and like took their spot.
yeah.
And so, I mean, he is playing it the best way. It's super awesome. And
You missed. You were probably taking a vacation from your fandom for most of NXT's glory years, weren't you?
no, I actually made returns just to watch Gargano and Ciampa tear each other
Oh,
apart in
okay.
NXT.
Okay,
Like,
good. I was gonna say if you came back
uh,
for any one
if
thing,
there was any one thing that I was going to come back for, that drew me in, and I loved watching them dismantle each other in
oh, they're
NXT. It was
so good.
great. Their
I still
fights.
say
Go ahead.
Ciampa's amazing. Johnny Gargano should be in that consideration for best pound for pound wrestler in the
Mm-hmm.
world. Like he's so good. The stories he tells in that ring are fantastic.
Oh
It
yeah,
may be a
they're
little
great.
long for people. He likes his 40-minute matches,
Not for me.
but like I'm
I
all
love it.
about it. Give me more Johnny G.
Oh yeah, for sure. But yeah, so I mean, but basically, in a nutshell, that was all that I really liked, and everything else I was. There was more bloodline stuff, but it was like a solo, crowning ceremony basically, and Roman interrupted it. I mean, at this point, I would like them to do something that I don't see coming with the bloodline story. And while I'm enjoying the wrestlers involved in it and the matches that come out of it, I'm just really not like I like the Sammy part, and then the rest of it's kind of like I can see all of it coming. Like they're having a crowning ceremony. Of course, Roman's gonna interrupt it because he's in the building. Is he really gonna acknowledge him? Hell no. Like it's like they're cycling through it year after year, the same things over and over again. And they get new people they portray. They do, Then now they got the whole now it's two bloodlines, and they're playing a very classic heel and face dynamic with it. But I think it might be too classic to the point where like I kind of see everything coming, and I want you to surprise me. And if they do, it fixes all this. It's kind of the same with the New Day thing. Like if there's some kind of swerve coming that's gonna take me go, whoa, okay, I'm all for it. But if we're just gonna play this out the way we think it's gonna play out, then please by all means play it out faster.
Well, I mean, Survivor Series is coming up at the end of the month. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, the rumors have been the War Games match Bloodline versus Bloodline for months now.
I
So, I
think it's gonna
mean,
be rad, but I don't know if it's gonna be. Is it gonna be 4-on-4? Is it gonna be 5-on-5? It looks like we
I
have
think it's
two
probably going to be four on
signings.
four. I don't see, I don't, I mean, who else could fit in there?
War Games matches
'Cause,
are 5-man teams though, so I'm kind of I don't know,
I
man.
mean, there have been 4-man ones. I mean, anyone's involving the Four Horsemen were always 4-man. So
Well, I
I
mean,
mean,
JJ Dillon was always involved in those too,
well,
so that's
yeah,
technically a
yeah.
5-man. But yeah, I mean, other than that, SmackDown was pretty good this week. Just there just wasn't a lot to it. It didn't seem like there just wasn't a lot there. I'd like there to be more like Raw and SmackDown run the same time, and Raw seems like it is packed with content, and SmackDown seems like it's kind of spaced out more. And I mean, I'm cool with the different paces. I'm okay with that. But I'd like to see more in SmackDown,
Yeah.
or at least just more that I can really talk about. I mean, I was kind of like I liked what I liked about SmackDown this week, but I was kind of indifferent to most of it. Where
Mm.
Raw, like after that second watch, I was really like, maybe I need more time so I can watch SmackDown a second time and pick some more stuff out of it. But
Maybe.
I didn't think SmackDown was as good as Raw, but they were both good shows. I wasn't like just soured on anything really. So I mean, I enjoyed them both. So yeah, WWE this week was pretty good, but I think that takes us to our hot tag.
All right, so the hot tag this week is AEW Collision from 11/9/24. Lots of good. Again, I think that Collision tends to be the more wrestling focused show on AEW as opposed to Dynamite, which is the more story driven one. Not that there isn't both on both shows, but that tends to be how Collision is booked. That is more my thing. I love watching wrestling for the art of it as well as for the stories of it. This one got a little bit of both though. Top Flight versus the Outrunners was real good. Um, Top
Yeah, it
Flight is
was.
now showing dissension even between the brothers now, and not just between them and Leo or Action Andretti. At one point, Layla Gray was on the outside, and Truth, or I think it was Turbo Floyd or Truth Magnet. One of the, I think it was Truth Magnet, and he almost ran into her on the outside after being dumped to the outside. He's like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whew, whew, boy, sorry about that." But he was still within very close proximity to her, and Darius went for the tope anyway,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of Layla Gray's safety. And Layla and Dante got real mad about it, rightfully so. And Dante was kind of in his face about it. There's only one moment in the match, really, and it was kind of early on. It was probably in like the end of the first third of the match, but it, important stuff. This Top Flight kind of falling to infighting has been going on for months now, but this is the first time that we've seen the two brothers actually butt heads.
Mm-hmm.
Important story beats. But the Outrunners were great. They prove that in this company full of freak athletes doing insane spots and dives and weapon shots and everything, that sometimes the strength of your basics mixed with fantastic character work can and will get you over. Like, you don't necessarily need to do all the crazy insane stuff if your character work and your basics are on point. Like,
Yeah.
if you can connect with an audience in a myriad of different ways, and these guys have found a way to connect with the audience based on their personalities more than anything else, and that's great because that adds diversity to your locker room. You can,
Yeah.
the more people you can connect with more ways, the more opportunities you have to expand your audience. The
Amen.
Outrunners get the win with the total recall on Dante, and they're going to go face Private Party at Full Gear. So we get the Outrunners on pay per view. Yeah, baby.
Oh, hell
Uh,
yes. So excited.
Next, yeah. Next thing I wanted to talk about was Roderick Strong in his second match to try and get to MJF against the Beast Mortos. I mean, if you've been following us, you know that we're both big fans of Mortos.
Oh, we love Beast
Love for
Mortos.
him. I mean, it's very. He shouldn't have gotten the win here. As much as I love Mortos, it doesn't serve the story for Mortos to win here. So him losing is not that big a deal. The match itself was great though, because even though the dude has this mask that covers his entire face, he still was able to get over the fact that he was very conflicted facing Roddy in the first place, because Roddy and the Undisputed Kingdom have been really, really good to Mortos over the past couple of months.
Right? They've been
And
trying to be his buddies.
yeah, they really like him. They want to hang around with him, pal around with him. Uh, so far as I know, he's still on retainer as Matt Taven's lawyer. Uh, but he showed several times throughout this that he wanted to compete, and he wanted to impress his new LFI buddies. And Roddy did a great job putting over all of Mortos' offense. In fact, Roddy was on the defense for the vast majority of this match. He sold and bumped like the champ that he is. In the end, though, kind of fluky, but Roddy does pick up the win. I think what they're trying to do, I I genuinely feel, and if it was planned and I'm a mark, that's fine. I'm okay with it. But I genuinely do feel like that finish last week against Shane Taylor was a complete fluke, and that he accidentally, legitimately knocked out Shane Taylor with that high knee
Mm-hmm.
because of how weird that pin was. And this, he won with the high knee again, but there was no flukiness to it. So I think that they're taking that, and they're taking the real situation and utilizing that as a new alternate finish for him.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me of a long time ago. I want to say 2003 or four, when Evolution was a thing,
Mm-hmm.
and Batista accidentally, legitimately knocked out Chris Jericho, and I think gave him a concussion from a clothesline. And they worked that into the story. So for the next month or so, he was finishing people with a clothesline, because
Yeah.
it was proven, hey, he actually legitimately knocked somebody out with it. This is a legit finish, even though it's just a clothesline. When that guy throws it, it can knock your head off. I think
Yeah.
they're going for a similar thing here. It fell into their lap, and they're using it. Nothing wrong with that. And that's an easy enough move to take. And all you have to do is, not get hit.
Yeah.
You know when it's coming, you sell it, nobody gets hurt. And because somebody may have accidentally got knocked out of it, it's got legitimacy. I'm all for that. All for that. But yeah, and I also like the fact that because of the nature of that move, that it's you can end a match with it unpredictably. Like
Mm-hmm.
I remember back in 1996 or so, when DDP and WCW was really, really ramping up. A lot of the way that he got over was he would take a drubbing for the first 5 minutes of a match, hit the diamond cutter, and it was over. And you knew it was over. And he could hit it
Mm-hmm.
from any angle at any time. You didn't know when it was coming, but you knew he hit that diamond cutter and it was over, no matter how much of a butt kicking he took in the lead up to that moment. I could see the unpredictability of that if they really worked into it, playing in a similar way with Roddy here. I would lean into it. Honestly, if I were Tony Khan, I would lean into that storytelling wise.
Yeah.
But I'm not Tony Khan. As much as I'd like to be on the creative team, because I think that would just be rad, I'm not. So, hey, if anybody in AEW, who is our new BlueSky friend, is listening to this, maybe run that up the flagpole, huh? I think I'd like to see that. I can't be alone in that. We got to talk about Nick Wayne and AR Fox.
Oh.
Holy cow! I mean, Nick AR Fox goes to the ring, and then Nick Wayne shows up on the big screen, and he takes a page out of his father Christian Cage's playbook, and says, "Hey, you know what I just found out? Today is the anniversary of the death of your dad." We all know that's a Christian Cage thing. He likes his dead
Mm-hmm.
dads. Um, and really rubbing it in and putting some heat on there. And Fox, before Nick Wayne even gets to the ring, the camera's following him all throughout his entrance too, which I kind of dug. AR Fox comes cascading over the top rope to attack him before the bell rings and beats the crap out of him for a good 2 minutes or so before he rolls him into the ring. This is great stuff. I've seen AR Fox, because he would go up and down the East Coast, the Indies. I've seen him for years. I think the first time I might have seen him was maybe 2013, 2014, something like that, for 2CW, which was an indie around here for a long time. It was the premier indie promotion in our area for a long time until Excite Wrestling took over. And like the dude was always on the show. He always impressed. I been a huge fan of his, and I was elated when he got signed to AEW. I'm a big Fox fan. AR Fox can, give him all the flowers. He, had some really cool, innovative offense, like he always does. He did like this really cool, like short cutter where like Nick Wayne was on his knees and he just like bam, like just hit him with a cutter. Like I've never seen anybody actually do that. So he's still breaking out new stuff, and he's like a 15, 18-year veteran at this point or something like that. It's really cool to see. And Nick Wayne, I can't say enough about Nick Wayne. At 19, there's no way that he should be as good as he is. He is every single bit the prodigy they promote him as. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Big fan. Like, just the way he carries himself is just years beyond his experience level. Like, I mean, granted, he started as a teenager with his dad, but even considering that, man, he's learned so much and he has improved so much, and he was good to begin with. Mm-hmm. So, like, I mean, he's the next 5 years of AEW would not surprise me if he's a former world champion if he sticks with the company, because his ceiling is very high. It's very high. The Fox gets some momentum towards the end, but Kip Sabian gets on the apron to distract Fox just enough for Nick Wayne to recover in time to move out of the way of the 450 splash that AR had coming for him while the ref was busy with Mother Wayne. And then Nick Wayne hits his ludicrous new finisher, a double underhook Canadian destroyer.
Ridiculous.
What in heaven's name? Oh my good Lord. I don't know how AR Fox wasn't dead right there. Looks amazing. But afterwards, the patriarchy, they get they help seal Nick Wayne's revenge. They took out this photo, this printed photo of a young AR Fox with his sadly passed away father, and they staple it to his head with a staple gun.
That was so gnarly.
I was like this was for a very low card program. This had a ton of good stuff and a ton of heat. Like, mm-hmm. it was real good. I do think though, AR Fox was part of that home invasion thing, which is why Nick Wayne was so upset and he was finally getting his revenge. But he didn't set it up. Are we really going to get Nick Wayne versus Swerve Strickland down the line? Like, they are at very, very different ends of the hierarchy in AEW at the moment. I would love to see the match, because the match would be good, but I do not see Nick Wayne having any chance to win.
No, not at all.
His position, unless this happens 3 years down the line after a lot of coaching and a lot of continuous improvement, and it being Swerve's turn to put somebody else over.
I don't see Nick Wayne winning this situation. But
it's not out of character for AEW to bring up stuff that happened 3 or 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. It's kind of nice, actually, that they don't treat us like we're stupid, and I mean, sometimes we need some reminders, but that they dip into their continuity, and everything is supposed to gel, and everything that happened is supposed to have happened. Mm-hmm. It's not forgotten and swept under the rug. It's not, oh, they'll never remember that. No, they reward you. they reward you for remembering, for being a nerd and remembering these tiny little bits of things that happened years ago. Like if you are one of those very attentive watchers and super fans, you get so much value out of stuff like this, little stuff like this. So, I mean, I can't see that match happening. Even though he is on what appears to be a revenge kick, I can't see that happening now and it working out for him.
No.
But I could see it down the line. Just say, yeah, my father finally said I was ready, so we're doing this, that kind of thing.
I mean, I could see them baptizing him by fire by throwing him in there with Strickland right now, but the level of violence that Strickland is on right now would result in a battered and broken Nick Wayne, which maybe that's what we're going for.
I
I mean,
mean,
who knows?
there's always the chance that he could get a cheap win with help from the Hurt Business, I suppose,
Yeah,
or Hurt
fair.
Hurt Syndicate rather,
Hurt
but
Syndicate, yeah.
Hurt Syndicate.
Look at us trademarking
Again,
it.
right? Again, the women's division was kind of let down this week. Like this match, this card only had one women's match, and this time it was a Chris Statlander squash match.
Hmm.
I love Chris, I do, and she deserved better than this. I mean, and yes, it had the continued angle with Mercedes coming out and tapping her out, making her tap out. So like that's on the table visually. There's danger there. I understand what they were going for, but like this whole segment lasted maybe 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's even a bigger example of what I was talking about earlier. Really. That said, we in on the plus side for the women's division, we got that awesome Julia Hart return
Oh
video.
yeah, that vignette was crazy, man.
Fantastic.
Oh, it was
If you
rad.
haven't seen it, go and check it out. It's basically Julia Hart is she's on a football field back in her cheerleader's outfit, like she was when she first came to AEW, and what is implied, because her face is shrouded, implied to be her dark side, her House of Black persona, is in the bleachers, making her real nervous until such time as uh, her dark side shoots an arrow through Julia Hart's heart. It was very on point.
Yeah.
Very, and then the ending shot is an overhead shot of Julia in having gotten shot with the arrow, uh, splice cut with uh, I think from a different video from last year of Julia as dark Julia Hart, House of Black Julia Hart, in like a little druid circle or whatever, and then all of a sudden she like wakes up from a dream, like she's in bed and like it's like on a second and a half, and she's just like waking up from a dream, and then it cuts it off. And then it goes right to an Outrunners 80s segment. But you're talking about mood whiplash, but
Oh
taken,
yeah.
in a vacuum. Oh, I mean, that was fantastic.
Brilliant.
I mean, some people are better served for surprise returns, like what happened with Powerhouse Hobbs this week. Better served, I think, to have the surprise, because it took me. I mean, it immediately invested me. But
Hmm.
these kinds of things, Julia Hart, best served by having return vignettes like this,
Hmm.
because she is such a character, and she had been so over before her injury, and she had to, she was forced to drop the TBS title to Willow,
Yeah.
um, when they could have probably drawn that out a little bit more and just honestly just probably have Mercedes just beat her for it. But I mean, injuries happen, man. I am
Hmm.
really excited for Julia Hart though, because her growth has been great to watch.
Yeah.
I'm really excited for her to come back. And then to end the show, the trios title: Death Riders, Claudio Castagnoli, Wheeler Yuta, and Pac faced off against the conglomeration, Kyle O'Reilly and oh gosh, which one was it? It was Kyle O'Reilly, Mark Briscoe, and uh, Ishii.
Hmm.
Uh, Getting their money's worth out of booking Ishii stateside. It's like use him as often as you can while he's here. I get it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, good stuff. Classic trio stuff here. Like, say what you want about the booking, and then the stories of the division, the matches in the division since the introduction of the trios titles have always delivered. Always been great
Yeah.
fun. Back and forth stuff here for a while until the commercial break, and then O'Reilly gets just the snot kicked out of him for a while. Eventually, and he does a great job selling. Eventually, there's a spot where everybody hits their big moves on each other. Everyone's down, like everybody's down, and the referee is counting them out. And then Mox's music hits, and he and Shafir come from out of there, and the ref stops counting. Now, normally, I would say, why the heck would you stop counting? The match is still in progress. But Jon Moxley's a big, scary man who claims everybody in AEW works for him under the threat of violence. So I don't really blame the referee for stopping the count. I think it really, honestly, in this particular case, it makes sense. Mox looks to get involved. He's on the far side of the ring, but then Pixie's hit. Where's my mind? And Orange Cassidy comes out, and so they have this great moment where they're on opposite sides of the ring outside, and there's all these down guys in the middle, but they're having a Mexican standoff. It was a great visual.
Mm-hmm.
The end came when O'Reilly had Yuta in an ankle lock for a long, long time. And they do a couple of spots where, okay, Pac is going to come in, and nope, he's not going to break this up. He's going to get taken out by Ishii, or I'm not sure who took out who, but as each member of the Death Riders came in, they were taken out, and it looked like O'Reilly really could have made you to tap, but the referee got distracted long enough for Shafir to hit O'Reilly in the ribs with the briefcase that is implied to hold the world title belts.
Mm-hmm.
And then that Yuta hit the Busaiku knee, and that was it. Afterwards, Cassidy orange punched Yuta as he stood in his way. Yuta was alone in the ring with Cassidy, and Yuta was kind of basically blocking the rest of the Death Riders who were on the outside of the ring. He was like the guy and starts, but he just eats an orange punch, and then Cassidy just goes on and attacks, and all hell breaks loose. And it ended the right way, because even though the titles, the championship didn't change hands, the baby faces finally in this story ended the show standing tall.
Mm-hmm.
At the end, they needed that at this point, because
Yeah.
it was getting oppressive. The amount, like, you need at this point in this long story that's been playing out over a couple of months now, really, you
Mm-hmm.
needed to have that hope. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
Cassidy looks like he has maybe a shot. He doesn't. Spoilers, he doesn't. He's Mox isn't going to drop to that title to anybody but Darby Allin, probably not until April. But they're doing their best to finally give the fans some hope and somebody to believe in and cheer for, instead of just ramming down this invader force basically down their throats. They're unstoppable. Nobody can face them. Blah blah blah. You can only do that so much before the fans tune out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they pulled the trigger at the exact right time. So that was great, and that was the show. Collision. Uh, Collision's a great show generally. Like, I wish that they would, again, beating that drum. I wish that they would have been able to give more to Statlander, or even if that match was going to be a squash, cut some time from another match and have another women's squash. Even if it was just another women's squash, at least that would be 4 women getting paid instead of 2.
Yeah.
4 women getting exposure on TV instead of 2. So, well, 3, because Monet got in there too, but
Mm-hmm.
still.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was Collision, and that's the hot tag.
Yeah. Well, now it's time to call it in the ring like the vets do.
Okay.
All right.
So it's time to call it in the ring. So this week, originally, we were going to do something a little different than what we finally decided on. So we spent hard for a lot of people. Um, we wanted, the original thought was to do something cathartic. Um, but joining BlueSky, again, it comes back to BlueSky. Joining BlueSky this week made us realize that probably the best thing we can do, instead of focusing on negatives, was to focus on stuff we do like, stuff that we can all get behind. Um, as wrestling fans, it's there will be times for catharsis. There will be times for focusing on more negative emotions. But you know what? Again, we embarked on this podcast journey to not focus on those on purpose for the most part, anyway, unless we were being absolutely constructive. And the idea that we originally had didn't really leave much room to be constructive. It was just us falling into the negative feelings that we had at the time. So for us to be better people and to serve our community a more positive outlook, we decided that we are going to, in light of something that you actually didn't touch on, Aaron, as
Mm-hmm.
part of your SmackDown review, some big news coming out of this Friday was the official reveal of the brand new, first ever WWE Women's Mid Card Championship. They
Yes.
introduced the WWE Women's United States Championship. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I personally think that a mid card title for the women is a long overdue, great idea. But I will say that if you were going to have it be apparently being uh, defended on both of the major brands, I would have preferred they do not choose United States over Intercontinental or vice versa. I would have
Mm-hmm.
preferred them introduced as something wholly unique. Like on NXT, the women's NXT North American Championship makes sense. There's only one mid card brand for the men, mid card title for the men there anyway. So
Mm-hmm.
that grouping makes sense. But if you're going to have one championship held across, being defended across both Raw and SmackDown, but only take the name from the analogous men's mid card title from one brand for the both of them, that to me, they should have called it like the Women's World Television Championship or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Something different, unique, and that would also create its own legacy as opposed to always kind of being attached to something else that already existed.
Yeah.
But that's my only complaint because at they finally have another championship, which means too, Aaron, that they are going to need to amend what it means to be a women's Grand Slam champion in WWE.
Yep.
I think that means that, technically speaking, nobody's a Grand Slam champion anymore.
That's a fair assessment.
I mean, I think maybe you have to like, I don't know how you would arrange it, but like Grand Slam means four. Comes
Mm-hmm.
from a baseball term when you get four runs off a single home run because the bases are loaded. So it means four. Doesn't mean five. It means four. So they'll have to figure that out on their own.
Yeah.
That inspired us, though, to talk about what some of our favorite historical mid card championships in our fandoms have been. So I have spoken far too much already at the beginning of this segment. So you know what? I'll pitch the first one to you, Aaron. What's one of your favorite mid card championships since you've been alive and watching wrestling?
Oh man. So there's like being an older guy as I am, I'm 41 years old. So I've been watching wrestling for a long time, and thankfully I'm not going to take the time to go into like all of the NWA mid card titles, of which there were probably hundreds
Well, I
of
mean,
recognized
that's
NWA
because
mid
they were
card
regional
titles. That's
championships.
true. That's true. But I think really the first time that I was exposed to and remember like really good runs from what we would term a mid card title was actually the men's U.S. Championship when it was WCW's belt. Um, some of the most influential wrestlers of all time have had runs with the WCW US title. And it was frankly one of my favorites. Going across multiple eras of WCW, but I mean, we have names like Sting and um, Steve Austin, and I believe Brian Pillman held that title at one point. I think so.
I don't know, maybe.
But I mean, yeah, we have Diamond Dallas Page held
Hmm.
that belt for a long time. But yeah, I mean, I don't remember if it was that one or the television title, but Jushin Liger actually held it once, I believe.
I
Um,
know. Who
Maybe
was
it
it?
was a television title.
I know who was it? Tenzan.
Mm-hmm.
Hiroshi Tenzan was U.S. champion for a minute. I think he beat
Yeah,
Sting for it. In fact, if I'm not mistaken.
you might be right about that actually. But yeah, I mean, classic lineage, crazy matches, names you wouldn't think would be attached to a title in an organization like WCW. Just I really enjoyed watching U.S. title matches. I always thought that it was a good play, kind of like WWE has the Intercontinental Championship. It was a good place for guys to come up through and get to the main card. Goldberg famously held it while he held the World Championship.
Yeah.
So I mean, it had its good and bad, but it
Well,
was
everything
definitely,
does.
yeah, everything does, but it was definitely one of the more influential mid card titles of, especially of my formative years of wrestling, watching and remembering and really being into the sport. I think the WCW US title deserved a mention on this list.
Absolutely. And it was for a time there. There was a point where the WCW roster got so bloated that the people who held that title were more established names more often than not. Bret Hart was a four-time
Mm-hmm.
U.S. champion.
Yep.
Kurt Hennig had a couple of reigns there too. But before that, before like the influx of the NWO and stuff like that, that was a title that they would take chances with. You know who else were U.S. champions before they even really got like super over? Eddie Guerrero and Dean Malenko were both U.S. champions.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was kind of big. Like that was like 95, I think.
Yeah, 95,
Yeah,
96, I think.
and if I want to say Eddie beat Ric Flair for it. I want to
He
say
might have
like
actually.
I mean Rick had incredible respect for Eddie and the Guerrero family in general. So it
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't surprise. I think I'm remembering that correctly. But yeah, like both of those guys, smaller dudes. I mean, Eddie was only 5'8". Malenko was shorter than that. But
Mm-hmm.
they were both credible champions because they took time to book them that way. You know, the
Yeah.
U.S. title was a good stepping stone for a lot of people. No, that's a great choice, fantastic choice. Um, for me, the one that I wanted to talk about was the NWA slash WCW Television Championship. I
All
mean, it was
right.
lower down the card than the
Mm-hmm.
U.S. title, and always was seen that way. But I liked the idea of a title that was, if there was a TV show, it was defended like
Yep.
all the time.
All the
Like
time.
you saw a lot of title changes because of that, which was always exciting, especially during the Nitro era when they were really leaning into that to push that anything can happen kind of vibe there. But
Mm-hmm.
there were still some big stars who held the TV championship. There was a big stepping stone for them. Muda won the
Mm-hmm.
TV title off of Sting.
Yeah.
Uh, Arn Anderson basically made his singles career hold being the first guy to hold it four times across NWA and WCW. Like he was synonymous with that belt for a long time. And
Mm-hmm.
the one when I think the first three reigns was when the belt looked even better too. Like The one that you associate with the TV title, that design was
Mm,
kind of mad. But like the NWA version of it, it was a really cool looking belt. I like that belt.
yeah.
And then there's that. I mean, it's against he who must not be named, but Booker T had that great best of seven series
Hmm.
over the TV title belt. Like there were points where that TV title actually meant a lot. You know, and then there was also the points where Hacksaw Jim Duggan found it in the trash. But uh, that being said, like for a while there, the TV title wasn't a joke, and it was a
Yeah.
major prize.
Hmm.
It was lower on the card, but like if you were winning the TV title, you were for a while there, you were seen as an up and comer. Like that's if it wasn't for the TV title, Booker T probably would not have eventually gained the single success that he would eventually attain.
Yeah.
I don't think I without those series of matches against Lord Voldemort, among others, in the TV title scene, I don't think they put the world title on him 3 years down the line. I don't think
Maybe
it
not.
happens.
Yeah.
I was always a fan of the TV title. I don't know.
Hmm. Yeah, I really enjoyed the TV title. It was I know Pillman held that one. Um, but yeah, I mean, it was a good man. Like there was so many good matches, and yeah, always
Yeah,
being defended. I mean,
it
they
was
said
definitely a
television title, and
workers'
they
title
meant it.
too. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. You
like
put it on workhorses,
yep.
guys with
Even
good
Rick
work rate.
Martel got a short stint with it, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
I
Far
believe
past his
so.
prime, but like
Yeah,
Martel was a great hand. You
yeah,
know,
yeah. It was a good. It was a good. Like it was a belt for the guys who were over with the boys. It seems like.
yeah, kind of.
But
Orndorff held it. Paul
yeah,
Orndorff held
Orndorff
that
held it.
belt,
Yeah, everybody loves
but
Orndorff.
before his arm atrophied.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, like it was. I like the TV title belt. I love the concept of it being like, okay, if there is a TV show, it is going to be defended. Like you were always guaranteed, at least for a while when they took that stipulation seriously, you were always going to see a title match. You were always going to see something on the line, which I thought was that's great for engagement. You know,
Hmm. Um, so I don't inundate this list with WCW. I mean, my next one will be the Intercontinental title.
yeah, I think
Um,
that's probably the classic one that
it's
everybody thinks of.
classic. Everybody thinks of
There's
that
a
when you think
reason.
mid card title, but it's also, I mean, it's a launching point for literally everybody. I mean, we Mr. Perfect held it and then ended up being in the world title scene. Um, we will never forget Santino Marella, and he won it on his first night in the company.
Mm-hmm.
Recently they're hanging it off Braun Breaker twice now. And he's definitely going to be in the world title scene sooner than later. I am positive.
Gunther revitalized that entire
Oh
belt's
man,
history with his title reign.
he did. He did. I mean, it had a pretty storied history before him, and he still managed to, make a history-making title reign out of it. And I mean, it's synonymous with the mid card. I think you think mid card intercontinental title is probably 9 out of 10 is going to be the first one that comes to mind. Unless it's just somebody who is, really, really into just sitting around and watching like old Crockett tapes and stuff.
Mm.
Which no offense there, that's rad, and I like watching old Crockett
Yeah,
tapes too.
yeah, yeah.
But I mean, it's just like a low hanging fruit, but there it is. Everybody who's anybody's held that belt.
Pretty much, except for John Cena. Oddly enough,
I still don't know how that one managed to escape John Cena.
I mean, he was already entrenched in the world title scene, but long before he would have had to have been on the show with the IC title, because the brand
Mm-hmm.
split was fully entrenched by the time he debuted.
That's true.
So he was always on. He was on SmackDown, and that's where the U.S. title was at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was a world champion, and then he wouldn't go drop that back down in mid card until 2015. And by
And
that
he was a
point, the
U.S.
show he
champion
was on
again.
was Raw, and the U.S. title was on Raw. So that's the one he went after.
I
Like,
mean, to be fair, I'm glad they didn't give him the Intercontinental title when they could have, because he would have turned it into a spinner.
Well, I
And
mean, it looks like a
I
hubcap now.
it
Like,
I
I
don't know.
mean,
I
it
think the
couldn't get
blue
much worse than
really
that.
I think the blue really helps, man.
The
Like
blue
I
does,
really
sure,
like
but
yeah, the blue really helps. They could change it, some more aspects of the design, but
to
or
me,
just
the
redo it.
Intercontinental
But
title will always be synonymous with that late '80s, early to mid '90s look when Brett and Shawn held it, and
mhm.
even Macho Man and Tito held that a version, a kind of an earlier version of that.
Yeah, the
That's
blocky.
there's a reason they brought that design back. It's a classic. Nobody dislikes the look of that version of the IC title belt.
Mhm. But this one
Um,
is
yeah,
obviously it splits the audience.
yeah,
So,
yeah. Uh, another one I want to talk about is the TNA/Impact X Division Championship.
oh yeah.
Like, I think that it doesn't get the rightful credit it deserves. TNA, the reason that you see the guys wrestling, the styles that you see now with the high risk stuff, with a lot more impact looking kind of stuff. A lot of it's from Japan, a lot of it's from Ring of Honor, but TNA formed around the same time Ring of Honor was, where that style was starting to come close. But TNA had TV. That style that grew out of the cruiserweight style from mid to late WCW was given the platform that it rarely had, even in WCW. Like, they always featured the cruiserweights, but they were never really taken seriously. And although I love that cruiserweight division, the X division, what do they say? The tagline is not about weight limits; it's about no limits. You
Mhm.
know, one of the longest reigns of that title's history was by Samoa Joe, a guy who was about 300 pounds but could still move around like any of the guys that he was facing.
Oh yeah.
You know, he was doing tornadoes over the top and stuff like that. Like, it was that style would become the style that the X division maybe not pioneered, but was first giving a showcase to,
Mhm.
on a bigger stage. That would become the dominant style 10 years down the road. All your favorite guys utilize that indie style that came out of the X division, or vice versa. It was synonymous, really. Like, that's when it was first promoted as its own thing, as it's something to watch out for, something that was different, that was the future. The X Division Championship, the belt itself, sometimes looked absolutely horrendous, but there were a lot of times, not gonna lie, where they gave it to somebody who did not fit the mold. Bobby Lashley had no business holding the X Division Championship.
No.
Kurt Angle didn't really fit the mold either.
No.
But, like, you know, it, it was far more influential on not only TNA, not only the indie scene, but on WWE and eventually AEW, which everybody's an X Division guy essentially.
Yeah,
Um,
basically.
that It's so influential, and nobody really talks about it because the glory days of TNA are behind us. Really, like, they're
Mhm.
coming on a little resurgence now, but, like, the peak of like 2006, 2005. I mean, that's long in the past now. I mean, there have been several times when I thought that promotion is dead and buried, and it keeps coming back, but it's never hit the heights that it once did. They're
Yeah.
doing well now, and you know, God bless them. But, like, they were never more noteworthy than
Yeah.
when they had that really really healthy X division.
Yeah. Yeah. That was like the best time to
For
watch
sure.
TNA, and I
On
did for the most
that
part.
triple threat match at Unbreakable 2005, I think it was,
Mhm.
Samoa Joe, Christopher Daniels, AJ Styles for the X division headlined that pay-per-view and is among the best triple threat matches in history.
Yeah.
Like, to this day, that's almost a 20-year-old match, and it's still to this day in rarefied air in that
Yeah.
match type. And there's a
Yeah, it's
reason for
very
that.
good. Yeah, there. Yeah, I mean, the X division was one of the reasons I would ever turn on TNA. So, I mean,
I mean, it certainly
that
wasn't
speaks
for
for
Jeff
itself.
Jarrett retaining the NWA title with the millionth time he hit somebody with a guitar.
Definitely not. Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, we did two non WCW, so we'll go back to WCW because, of course, that's the. I mean, I really love the cruiserweight title, man. I
Yep.
mean, who didn't? I don't think. I think that's one that everybody can get behind. Some of the
I
greatest
love the
wrestlers in the
look of
world.
that belt too.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite belts. The design of the belt itself of all time.
Hmm. Yeah, the cruiserweight championship was always really cool looking, and well, except for that very last one, I didn't really like it too much. But they only debuted that like well like a month or two before they closed shop, so it wasn't around very long. But
No, and by the time WCW was absorbed into WWE, or F at the time, Shane Helms was the cruiserweight champion, and he had already gone back to the older belt. So
yeah, yeah. So I mean, it always looked really cool, and some of the best action took place. Fighting for that belt. I mean, they might not have. They didn't take it seriously on the show itself sometimes, but the wrestlers wrestling for that belt always came out and put their A game on, and it
yeah,
was amazing.
yeah,
Just all the luchadors. I mean, that was my first real exposure to them because I mean, like I knew like old school Mexican wrestling from my grandparents and stuff like that, but I didn't really know what was going on down there now. Like
yeah.
my great grandfather watched like the old Mexican luchador movies and stuff like that. So
With El Santo and all that.
yeah, El Santo and all
Yeah,
them. So like I mean I was exposed to some of that stuff, but I didn't know like about Juventud or the Guerrero, well, I mean not like Eddie,
yeah,
or any of those people. So like I really wasn't schooled in any of that. So WCW provided that to me and that changed for sure changed what I thought was a good wrestling match. And
yeah.
I think it did
I
industry
think you're not
wide
alone in
too.
that either. I mean,
No.
because I had the same kind of awakening with that. Like, here are these smaller guys doing all these crazy moves I'd not seen except maybe from the 1, 2, 3 kid, no one hard.
Hmm. Yeah.
Like, and even then, because they were facing bigger guys, they were usually getting the crap stomped out of them. So you didn't even see all those moves all the time
No.
from them. But here are these guys doing stuff that at the time for a North American audience, especially a kid, was revolutionary,
Yeah.
eye opening. Like there's so much more than punch kick a palooza out there.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know?
I was like, wow, wrestling does different wrestling is cool, man. Like,
Yeah.
what do they do in Japan? That was kind of my first thought. And then I found out like they do terrible things to it. Like, but because like when you like at that point, by that time they'd already started doing death matches and shit. So like if you
Yeah.
looked up Japanese wrestling on the internet as an American, chances are your results were going to be like Mick Foley getting his face burned off. And so
Lots
it
of
was like, oh,
FMW.
that's what
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
what they're doing in Japan. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
and then
FMW and WAR.
and
Yep.
and to be honest, like I really couldn't
Wrestling
get it.
romance.
Yeah, and I couldn't get into like New Japan and stuff at the time. So what I saw was FMW, and I was like, oh god, like okay, so maybe what's going on in Mexico? Let's see more of that. And
Yeah.
AAA is better now, I think, than it was back then. I think really WCW did a really good job of taking the best talent from like CMLL and AAA and bringing them in and presenting them in a format that like is really consumable as
Yeah.
opposed to I mean, well, at least for us as an audience, I'm sure it's consumable for audiences in their home country the way it's presented in their home country, but I'm just not that in touch with their culture, unfortunately. So I need it packaged up in stupid American fashion,
Yeah.
because I am indeed a stupid American. So,
Yeah. We both
you
are.
know, yeah. So I mean, of course, I need it packaged for me correctly, but they always did, and then they brought in American guys who could do the thing too. I mean, this is where I'm pretty sure Jericho was in the cruiserweight division, or there was an
Hmm.
angle where he was in
He
it for a long time.
started. Yeah. He started his whole conspiracy thing in the cruiserweight division, and then branched out into the TV titles thing.
Yeah, so I mean, we had
So
Jericho, Malenko, Eddie Guerrero, Juventud,
who are you to doubt El
Psychosis,
Dandy?
El Dandy, uh,
Silver
Super
King,
Calo, Silver King,
Mr.
uh,
JL, who is
oh
Jerry Lynn.
God, yeah, Jerry Lynn, Conan before he became NWO Nan.
Hmm.
Um,
He's a former
God,
U.S.
just
champ too.
yeah, he is. But yeah, so many of those guys like came in and just freaking killed it. Changed
Yeah.
my whole perception of wrestling.
All right. I guess to kind of finish off here, you got three. I guess I'll finish with three.
All right.
Uh, I think my favorite current mid card title is the AEW International Championship. They have really gone so hard into it
Oh yeah.
that like it is not only a workhorse championship, but like in the early days when it was an All Atlantic title, and now more recently with Konosuke Takeshita as the holder of it, the idea was you were going to go all around the world and defend it in all these other promotions, which I thought was really cool. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, they had the ability to do that with the Forbidden Door being open to so many other things and letting their guys do indie shows, you know, on their off days, stuff like that. I love the look of the physical belts. I think it's one of the best looking belts. I love the look of it. And with all the flags and all the cross flags and stuff like that, it
Yeah.
looks like I love how it's big, but it's not too big. Like that was one of the things I always didn't really like about like the big gold belt was like it had the skinny little strap, and then the front plate was just way too big. And I just thought
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, that's just poor design. Like I don't like that. Like this is big, but it like flows, and it's not
Mm-hmm.
so big that somebody who's wearing it is gonna look small compared to the belts. You
Yeah.
know, um, I look at the litany of guys who have won the damn thing. Pack, Orange Cassidy had this incredible 13-month run with it. Moxley main evented against Cassidy for that belt, not the world belt, the international title. Um, obviously you've got Ray Phoenix, who was kind of a fluke because he accidentally really knocked out John Moxley, and they had to call it on the fly. Uh, but then you've got Orange Cassidy again, and then you've got Roderick Strong, and Will Ospreay, and now
Mm-hmm.
Konosuke Takeshita. That's a murderer's row. That in its 2 years or so of being a thing, that already is a super rich history right there. Those are guys that are going to be the futures of the company or already the present. Like that is like in a company with too many titles that AEW does have, well, you might as well make one of them like basically the world title, but not the world title. Like, and that's to me, that's what the international championship has become because they give
Yeah.
it to like the just the best workhorses that people love to see their matches. They have enough championship defenses where it's like, yeah, like this is something that you want to go for. Honestly, there have been points in that title's history where I think it's been even worth more than the world title, given the focus that's been placed on it.
Yeah.
Like that's I mean, maybe that's going outside of what its intended purpose is, but it's certainly not a bad thing to have a roster where one of your mid card title holders is essentially seen as better than the world champion because that means that you can book him in the future to be the world champion and he'll draw.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that is the purpose of a mid card title is to get to gauge where somebody is in terms of drawing power, and then give them a run with the ball, see how far they can carry it, and if they can prove that they can carry it, then you promote them to the world title. That's the
Yep.
whole purpose of a mid card championship. And then so I think that even though nobody who's held that title except for Moxley has gotten to that level yet, almost every single one of those people who has worn that could easily be slotted into that role and nobody would bat an eye. It's a
Yeah. I
star
don't think
maker.
so. It
The
definitely is.
International
Yeah.
Championship in AEW is one of their biggest triumphs in my mind because
Mhm.
it's a star-making championship.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, even some of the champions you wouldn't expect, like if they somehow slotted Pac in as the world champion, like I'd believe it. He's a bastard.
I, yeah,
Yeah.
I totally believe it. I've said on the show before, I think that people overlook him, and
Mhm.
like he's one of the best pound for pound in the world.
Yeah.
I don't know why he's left out of those conversations because he clearly belongs in
Yeah. He for sure does. And he doesn't own a shirt.
it. Yeah, he doesn't own a single shirt or pair of pants.
No, I
He
don't
just
think so.
owns trunks and boots and
Hmm.
pads
I
and
mean,
tape.
simple life, I guess. Real Spartan.
Yes, yeah. Not the life for me. I guess it's a bastard's life, huh?
Yeah, I guess so. All right. Well,
Well, that should wrap things up. But if you, hey, our listeners, now that we have a far more interactive way to converse with all of you, what are your favorite mid card tiles? Let us know.
mhm. Yeah, put them right in the comments below on our Blue Sky post or in the YouTube videos if that's where you're watching this. If you want to catch up with us, we are Smark FNDN podcast.bsky.social. I am Aaron Smark.bsky.social and Adam.
I am Adam Smark, FNDN pod dot bsky dot social.
All right, and that's how you can catch up with us. Blue Sky is going to be our home. Right now, we are not going to be posting on the Twitter machine anymore.
Yeah,
We
it'll
have
be up just in case that's the only way that you can, you know, that's the way that you're used to it, but we're probably not going to update a whole lot on there. We
right.
invite everybody to come and join us on BlueSky.
Yep. And we will see you guys next week before Raw.